I've been caring for my mum now full-time for 2 years, and before that part-time for a year, whilst I was also holding down a full-time job, which I was having to commute to, a good hour's commute each day. I think the main challenges when I took on the role as being my mum's carer was actually understanding what help and support I was entitled to. My own mental state was suffering. I started to get very tired, started to get quite run down with actually looking after my mum. In hindsight, I think the one thing that would have helped me sooner was knowing Carers Gloucestershire were there. It took my own health to take a sort of tumble, and my own mental health to take a tumble before the doctors started recommending or checking that I actually had that support in place. Moving on from that, Carers Gloucestershire have been great with me. I did have a series of counselling sessions that helped me with the adjustment to become a carer, because I found it quite difficult at times to cope with the isolation, as well as the difference in my actual day-to-day roles from a normal working environment. Since I gave up work to be a carer, I have changed considerably as a person. I was very proud to start with and didn't want to burden anybody else with helping me. I've since learned that any help you receive is to be greatly welcomed. For myself, one of my fears is my future. I've given up a career to look after my mum. I'm totally aware that I'm not going to be able to go back to that career because it was a high-tech environment, and where I'm of an age where I'm not going to be able to sort of pick up the pieces and go back into that role again. So I do fear for my future. I am getting a little bit of help from that from Carers Gloucestershire with the grant they've given me to pursue my hobby further, which is photography, which I hope to sort of pursue into possibly a career when I'm no longer caring for my mother. I think one people need to understand is that there are different types of carers. There is no one suit fits all, and we all have individual needs.
My life as a carer started, I suppose, 4.5 years ago when my husband was diagnosed with a mix of Alzheimer's and vascular dementia. And initially, I thought, me, a carer? No, I'm not a carer. My life has changed really completely out of any recognition. I had to give up full-time work 6 months ago, which I desperately did not want to do. And I think one of the most significant things is that choice and autonomy and flexibility and spontaneity just disappear from your life. I think there is a mismatch between the way carers are seen and the reality of being a carer. I think all too often it's assumed that we will just glide seamlessly into this new role as a carer. It's somebody we love, and therefore what will we do but care for them? But I dislike intensely being seen as this angelic, wonderful person who will be able to cope magnificently with whatever caring throws at me, because actually I don't feel angelic. I struggle almost every day, I think. I'm having to try and work out when the time arrives for me to hugely reluctantly acknowledge that I can actually no longer care for him in the way that he needs to be cared for. And I do have to hand him over to people who are better placed to do that. And it breaks my heart. I don't want to do it. No matter how good, how caring the place is, I don't think it's the same as being cared for by somebody who loves you. I suppose if somebody were starting out on the caring route, I would say to them, do use whatever resources there are around. It is good to start sooner on most things than you think you need to. Like, for example, I'm starting on planning for the inevitable residential care for my husband. So I suppose the message is to start early, to turn to people, to have those conversations, to find other people in the same position and be willing to talk to them and have them talk to you and share your feelings. Offload some of that at an early stage. Don't struggle on. Don't try to be brave and managing and controlling when sometimes you don't feel like that really inside. It does help when I talk to other people. So my advice would be to go and do that, whether it's friends, whether it's family if you can do it, or whether it's an organisation like Carers Gloucestershire.
Mum came to live with us after a very long 4-week stay in hospital. She lived in Jersey at the time, and I was flying back and forth. So I brought her over here, took her to see my GP, and straight away the GP says, I'm not going to even look at her. I want her to see a psychiatrist. And the psychiatrist did some more tests, and she was diagnosed with vascular dementia and Alzheimer's, which changed our lives completely. Ever since her diagnosis, but more so lately, she's deteriorating very fast. So the challenges are more emotional challenges than physical challenges or social challenges. It was a hard thing because I then realised that, I'm going to have to make all the decisions now. I'm going to have to take over the mother role and she's the daughter role. It was a very hard emotional challenge for me to take over that role, because sometimes when things go wrong, no matter how old you are, your mother's still your mother and you want your mum. But I haven't got she's there, she's my mum, she always will be my mum, but I can't go to her for advice. But I look past the illness, and at the end of the day, she's still my mum. I was in denial for a long time, and I just said, oh, there's nothing wrong with her, she's just getting old, that's all. And then somebody suggested to me to go to a group called Let's Get Together. And we went to art therapy one Wednesday morning, and the lady gave Mum a piece of paper and a paintbrush and said, just draw anything that you want. And my mum drew an African sunset. That's one way of her telling me, you know what, I actually want to go on a safari. We were supposed to get married, but I said to Mike, look what Mum drew at art therapy today. We can't get married this year. We've got to go on safari. One of the things that Carers Gloucestershire has put me in touch with is the Carers Emergency Scheme. I'm actually a heart sufferer myself. I suffer from a heart arrhythmia, and I know I'm so comforted that I know I've got a number to ring if I need to go into hospital at short notice. And I'd advise the carer that please do not struggle by yourself. Ask for help. There is help. Don't struggle. And most importantly is look after yourself.
My name's Dave. I'm 42. Single father of 2 children. What worries me about being a carer is I think probably the future. The last 6 or 7 years we've worked really hard in getting ourselves a routine. I think with Emily turning 16 next year, it's the whole thing of school places, post 16, post 19, and we don't know what's going to happen with her healthcare. She becomes an adult. So she goes to adult side of things, so she isn't going to have a paediatrician. If anything goes wrong with her wheelchair, it is a totally different thing. A normal day you can cope with, you can get them to school, you can go to work and do things, but I think not knowing what I'm going to be able to do with my daughter in a couple of years. Am I going to be able to work? We just don't know what the situation is. And I think for me and probably for a lot of carers, that's the worst thing. There's nothing we can do about it. I'm very lucky that my boss is very good, and if I need to go for appointments I can. This week I've had to go to the hospital with Emily to sort out things. I managed to get a couple of hours off work to go and do it. If you haven't got a boss who's quite so understanding, you know, again, that could make things worse. So, but for me, I'm very lucky in that way. My boss is very good. You work so hard to get to where you are, and sometimes it's like, where am I going to be in a year? But at least with Carers Gloucestershire, we have somebody to be able to call, somebody to be able to ring who can help, put us in contact with somebody else who might know a little bit more. I had depression and I did some of the carers meetings that they do, and just meeting other parents and talking and things. And then I had some counselling with them, which was an absolute godsend, really was. I don't know where I'd be now if it wasn't for that. I think for me, we are too hard on ourselves. It's something that I've learned with my problems that I've had and other things. We are too hard on ourselves. There's only so much we can do. It's very hard to juggle the dad side of things, work, but I think you just get on with it in the end. You know, you just do what you need to do.